Was the Pope appealing for peace or was he praying for peace?
And the same applies to the carry-on drag.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what do you have to say about that? Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the latest on the news. Now, we had a couple of apologies from some of our more regular panelists today, but we still have my co-host Tercia in semi-darkness. How the devil are you, Tercia? You've gone mute. Tercia.
Well, the light is shining. I've got a little bit of a halo.
Oh,
I have a halo. Does it look?
Very appropriate.
Oh, hang on.
What's the matter? You keep freezing. So while you sort yourself out, I'll introduce Dread Pirate Higgs. Welcome, Dread.
Oi.
Long time no see. I'm glad
Yes,
you found
indeed.
yourself.
Glad to be back. Thank you.
Yeah, you found yourself some connectivity in the Canadian wastes on the borders of the tundra.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah.
And everyone drives a truck here, and that's what that noise is, unfortunately. But
Oh, right.
they set me up in motels and hotels, so he's leaving.
I see. Yeah. Well, I thought it was thunder. I'm glad it
Yeah.
wasn't. So to do something at her end. We still can't hear you, Tercia. Oh, she's going sideways. She's on her phone. Oops, let's just keep going again.
My goodness, that's so funny.
This is what it's like if you live in South Africa. You
Right.
see, yeah. So Dread, I'm going to start the show with you giving
Sure.
your splendid opinions about the various news items that I've reported on in the last week. There's the usual surprise that it's about Pakistan, where there's been violence in Jaranwala that was sparked by claims that two Christian men had torn pages from a copy of the Quran and allegedly scribbled on them in red marker ink. And this horrible evidence was found near a Christian community. Okay, so that sparked riots, during which there's two different accounts. Some say that more than 100 people have been arrested, and some say more than 600 people have been arrested. After
What a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Ty. Hello, Ty.
Hey, Chuck.
Better late than never. Yeah. So we're talking about these riots that have been going on in Jaranwala, Pakistan, Ty.
Okay.
This is on the basis that two Christian men allegedly desecrated a Quran, and as a result of which thousands of Muslims have burned churches and vandalized homes. Possessions belonging to Christians, like their furniture, were pulled out into the streets in this largely Christian area and set fire to. And the police have been trying to quell this. The historic Salvation Army Church was still smouldering a day after the riot, and the two accused men have been arrested. They're being investigated for blasphemy, which of course in Pakistan can have the death sentence applied to it. Now, although they've given out some death sentences recently, it's never actually been carried out. But the mere accusation of blasphemy can result in widespread riots, such as have just happened in the last week in Jaranwala. And sometimes this leads to lynchings and killings. So
Right.
what makes it worse from my point of view is You know that a mosque has this very tall, thin tower, a minaret or something they call them, and with loudspeakers at the top. Actual horn speakers.
Yep.
Well, the local Muslim leaders have been shouting out of those horns. Christians have desecrated the Holy Quran. All the clerics, all the Muslims should unite and gather in front of the mosque. Better to die if you don't care about Islam. That's what the clerics are doing. What do you think about that, guys?
I know you had potentially misspoken, but are you sure you got the story right, or are you sure the Muslims had heard it right and they didn't just stick a Quran in a desiccator in order to keep it lasting longer and dry? Because that could be a good thing, and the Christians could just be, hold on, we're just drying. There was a little bit of water. It was left out.
Yeah.
We're helping
Get the
out.
desiccator on.
Everybody and all the Muslims will see them like, oh, I'm sorry, and the Christians will be like, okay.
Well,
And they have
I
a big
wish
picnic,
that was the
and then there's
case.
a holiday. It'll be
I wish
thanks
that
dryness.
I wish that was the case, Ty. But unfortunately, it was a tip of the slung.
So I was thinking while you were talking, geez, it just never gets old, and I don't really have anything new to say, except that as you were speaking and you were talking about the death penalty, I was thinking that one tends to think, just as when there's a motor car accident and they say 12 people died, or a bus accident, then we forget about the people who were just severely injured, who have to continue living with missing limbs or serious injuries that affect them for the rest of their lives. And in this case, imagine you are the family member of one of these men, and I'm sure it will not be only those men who will feel the effect. There will be ostracization, there will be victimization, possibly needing people to relocate, to build completely new lives. That's the first thing I wanted to say. And the second thing I wanted to say is, now the police has to focus on
Oh no.
uprisings and killings and while regular crime can't be fought,
Yes, yes.
women are being raped, places are being robbed,
Yes.
and the police can't pay attention to that because they have to see to it that Christians and Muslims don't murder each other.
You're absolutely right, because if I go further down this item, more information comes to light. It says there's a standoff between the police and the crowds. The crowds are not backing down. They've had to fetch rangers to deploy and control the situation. So yeah, it doesn't seem to be getting better in a hurry.
Wow.
Just wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page. If they did get a bunch of desiccators, would we agree that that would be acceptable? Or like maybe a good peace offering of just saying like, hey, Christians, here's some things you can use. And when you say you use it on the Quran, just be very clear with your spelling.
Well, I don't know. I think
Allow for no ambiguity.
It might be possible to have too much desiccation. I don't know. There's a certain level of water content that is good for paper. Otherwise, it's too crisp and brittle.
What if you just leave the Quran on top of the desiccator?
Yeah, now you're playing with fire. It's sort of like, hey, if you cross this line and you just stand right next to it, it's like my tiptoes don't count, or I'm not touching the line.
Yeah.
I'm just having my finger above it. I'm not touching the line. I didn't cross it. Everyone's like, oh, we should have made that line. Now I'm even more upset.
Yeah.
Don't you dare
Moving
desiccate
on.
that Quran. Don't you dare desiccate that Quran.
Moving on, I'll be very careful how I pronounce things in future. This is about neighboring Afghanistan, where some of the young women are managing to escape because, of course, as you know, it's pretty bad news to be a woman in Afghanistan right now. The situation is you can't get an education, you can't go to a park, In fact, you can't really go outside without a man with you, and you've got to wear special garb and so on and so forth because you're a second-class human.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one girl whose story I've got here. She managed to escape by walking through Kabul airport. She was 18, I think, at the time, and feeling rather fearful, with shaking hands, the airport officials questioned her, and she said, or she tells us, that the Taliban don't allow women to travel alone. So I said my mother was sick in Pakistan. And amazingly, this is about 12 months ago, they were convinced. And she got on a flight and managed to get to Bangladesh. Okay, but she knew as she did that she might never see her family again. And back home, her younger sister's heart was broken, and the whole thing is very emotionally disruptive. However, she's now in Bangladesh, and she's at a university, and she's started a boxing club.
Cool.
She has 50 female students in her class, and she says self-defense and strength for women is important. I've always wanted to be able to protect myself, and I want to teach others to do the same. So
That's
there you go.
awesome.
So, yeah,
Good place to start. Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, good for her.
Yeah.
It probably won't happen again. She was probably one of the last ones
Yeah.
able to get out.
Yeah.
Well, they've got to come up with something like the Underground Railway, like they had back in America and Canada, so that, young women can have a route to get out, because it's not going to get better by virtue of the men. And they're not going to, give up their power over women anytime soon. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, back in August 2021, when the Taliban took control and closed down the gyms and the schools for women, since then, not a single country has recognized the Taliban as the government. Even engaging with the Taliban remains deeply controversial. Nobody wants to send a diplomat over there.
Right.
And there's two schools of thought. Some say that talking with the Taliban might help to bring about change. They might see reason. But others insist that the Taliban will never change, so there's no point in just even talking with them.
Have they ever considered that they could always send an ambassador that's just like a very flamboyant drag queen? And I mean that in the most serious way. Just to be like, if this is for a peace operation, I bet you could find one who would totally jazz up the place and be like, listen guys, all you need is a little bit of glitter right here, and look, you could either just make such a big impression. Here's a strat. And the drag queen would be on this too. You make such a big impression that it's basically like, you know what? Maybe we should let women go to the gyms. Like, like maybe it's not, show them an extreme where it's like, oh, you know what? Maybe we're being a little crazy. Maybe we should let women read. Like, this isn't so bad, right? Or else they're going to keep bringing more and more ambassador drag queens over here, and that's going to ask more questions. And stuff
Would they
like that.
would they also sideline as
more.
desiccator salesmen?
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And everybody knows as soon as you have more than like 4 or 5 drag queens in one place, you have a party, and it's a big party, and they just keep making it bigger and bigger. You can't stop it. So like,
RuPaul.
Listen, we'll let the women read. Guys go back home. We'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Mission
I don't
accomplished.
know.
Fly back home as heroes.
I don't know where you're going to get the the eye glitter makeup from, because of course they've shut all the beauty salons, and I'm wondering who's going to volunteer for this drag
Well,
queen
they'll be-
ambassador jobs at
There'll be
Utah.
like Tupperware parties,
Anybody
you know,
can.
just held in people's households, right?
Anybody can. That's an equal opportunity position for everybody. To grab up employment.
Well, I'd like it to be known right here and now that I'm not volunteering.
Oh, are you sure about that? Okay, we'll see.
A trip down to the Pacific part of America, where Maui, you know, that island on the Hawaiian chain, has had these terrible fires and is really wiped out one of the city, well, the main city or town, and so a congregation has lost their church. It's just burnt to the ground. It was called the Grace Baptist Church, and so they're now not only churchless, but most of them are homeless as well. However, they gathered on Sunday and in a coffee shop as their makeshift church, and they described their daring escapes from the fire, and it's very tearful. There's a video that I'm not going to show you now, but it's in the Global Atheist News, and they are weeping, and the leader of this congregation is saying, "Isn't it good that God gave us tears?"
Gotta put out some fires, huh?
Oh,
Oh, my
too soon,
goodness.
Dread.
He really had to dredge up that small blessing, didn't he? Surely.
Yeah.
Well, he has no other option because he can't speak the truth. He can't say, well, yeah, okay, we have to accept it. God had it in for us. He can't say that, and he probably can't even say, listen, guys, sometimes bad things just happen.
Right.
Because saying that would mean to acknowledge that God is not all powerful.
Yeah.
So he can't even do that. He has to offer some sort of platitude to make these people feel better. And
Yeah.
all I can say is I do hope it works for them, because I really don't wish anything like that on anybody. It must just see your home going
Yeah.
up in flames. So I hope
Absolutely.
it works. I hope that his attempts at I don't know. I hope it
Soothing.
works. I hope they feel better. That's all I can say at this stage.
Well, I think he should be given a prize for 100% effort in scraping the barrel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might find him.
Okay, so we go to Europe now. We go to Italy, but in a roundabout way, we also go to Canada, because there's a gay couple in Italy.
No.
BJ Barone.
Just one, Dread. Don't worry, it's real news.
BJ Baroni and Frankie Nelson. I think Frankie Nelson might have been the Canadian, but they now live in Italy, and they have adopted a son, Milo, with the help of a surrogate mother. They did that in 2014, and there was a photo taken of the two parents clasping this newborn baby, and it's very touching because they are absolutely in love with the familyness of it all. But unfortunately, as sometimes happens, I'm thinking of, revenge porn. That digital photo got used for other purposes.
No.
So, in fact, in particular, it was used by Brothers of Italy, which is the right-wing Italian party that's currently leading the government.
Huh?
And it's a direct descendant of the Italian social movement, which was formed by members of Mussolini's fascist party after the war. It's funny how these political
black
terms
shirts,
can
right?
It's funny how these political terms can get interchanged. You wouldn't normally associate fascism and socialism in the same sentence,
Right.
but they've managed it. So what happened was this is the Prime Minister and his party used the photo to propaganda against surrogacy.
Surrogacy?
Surrogacy, yeah. Using
Is the Prime Minister of Italy not a woman? Or is she just the leader of the party?
I think she's female, Georgia Meloni, yeah.
Yeah.
But she is the party leader of this extremely far right
So it's a she.
ruling party. Yep.
Yeah.
And they are against surrogacy. They think it's unacceptable for their own peculiar reasons.
Okay.
So what they did was, in March, they instructed Milan's city council to stop registering children of same-sex parents. So, okay, if you're parents but of the same sex and you've got a child that you're parenting, that child doesn't exist as far as the National Register is concerned. Great.
Well, that could be a problem for that child. I mean, there's so many
Going
things
to
you can't
school.
do if you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All kinds of things, yeah, for sure.
And it was this photo which was taken of them welcoming their son into the bosom of their arms and their family, that was used by the Brothers of Italy, that's the name of the political party, Fratelli d'Italia, as part of this campaign against surrogacy. But there's been a case that the men took the party to court, and the judge ordered the party to pay the couple €10,000 each. And this is because of the offensive use of their image.
Interesting.
Mm.
Well, that's
And the
one way
couple
to
have said,
get back.
it's complicated, but it is interesting. The couple have said, this is a small win for us, but it's a huge victory for the LGBTQ plus community in Italy and abroad. To us, our birth photo represents everything that we stand for: acceptance and unconditional love. This victory against Fratelli and the Prime Minister allows us to reclaim our photo and show the world that family is about love.
Right. Nice.
Yeah,
Nice quote.
there you go.
Yeah.
I just wonder whether this objection against surrogacy is because it was a gay couple, or whether whether it's against surrogacy in principle, because I mean, heterosexual couples who can't have children also make use of surrogate parents. So, and does this mean, so if that's always, I like to do this. So if they have this objection against surrogacy. So okay, there's a few questions. The first one is nobody allowed to make use of surrogate surrogate birth? Number one, nobody ever again. And secondly, are lesbian families allowed to have children? So are you going to prohibit lesbian couples from having babies, and then you have to prohibit sperm donation?
Yes, exactly.
So it just goes on and on and on and on.
Yes,
You know, the dominoes just keep on falling.
I don't think that the Fratelli wanted to get into that sort of detailed discussion. I think they were just trying to enrage their base and and boost their popularity, because of course what they were trying to do with the photo is confuse surrogacy, which is one thing, with homosexuality, which is another thing. And this blurring goes on and on, doesn't it? I mean, quite often homosexuality is blurred with paedophilia. And
Right, of
Yeah.
course.
again, there's no necessary connection.
Right. It's a lot of bad thinking.
Yep.
Right. But it could be, if you think about this long term, the solution to eliminate the gay agenda altogether, because then you could always just have surrogate sex with heterosexual couples. Whenever two gay people fall in love, they can just pick two straight people to have sex with each other. And it just means there will always be more straight sex happening than gay sex, which is a win for everybody,
Yeah.
right?
Lots of sex.
Make love, not make love.
God
not
loves
war.
that. Yeah. I just solved your
Yeah.
problem, Italy.
Thank you again,
So-
Ty.
You're welcome.
So,
I'm a doctor, by the way. Can I make sure of that? I'm officially a smart person.
Right
so what you're suggesting there, Ty, is that
Hmm.
surrogacy need not actually be about, it could just be about sex.
Yes, it's just about always having more straight sex than there is gay sex. So just every gay partner just find two straight people and be like, hey, you guys have sex. We're going to have sex. We're like, oh, okay. Proportions stay the same, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, so we've all got to choose a sex surrogate. And then,
There it is. Oh, I love the idea.
Yeah.
Do we how do we get the evidence? Do we have to watch?
Well, watching what people do isn't.
There's a whole new aspect to the porn industry we could
There's
exploit.
nothing more godly than spying on people. So
Yeah.
there you go.
And it's very totalitarian, which God likes. So
Yeah.
we right. Yeah.
This show is about solutions.
Well, on this subject, on this subject of morality and violations and stuff, Algeria has pulled the Barbie movie from national cinemas, and apparently this is a growing movement in MENA, the Middle East and North Africa region. You know, MENA, where they're getting quite uptight about Barbie, claiming that it's it's a bad example, and this is despite the fact that in that part of the world, the rivers are drying up, the greenery of the entire Mediterranean basin has been on fire. Warming temperatures are on the verge of turning vast swathes of the Arab world into uninhabitable wastelands. However, that's not such an important problem as Barbie.
That's funny. I'm gonna go see that tonight.
Oh, yeah, enjoy.
Yeah.
Brace yourself. It's a silly movie. That's all you need to know. Don't go in thinking like I'm here for hard hitting Academy Award.
Yeah.
It's like it's deep. And every single time your brain goes like, "Hey, but what about?" Stop. Just stop it and just enjoy it. It's a silly movie.
Yeah.
When you have that as your context, everything else is good.
I'm not sure if that's a spoiler alert. It might be.
Yeah.
No,
Just have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the plan.
enjoy.
That's and I go to the theater myself. I'm because where I am, of course, I don't know anybody. So no, I just
Yeah.
grab my big bag of popcorn and my big cola and just sit back and enjoy.
Nice.
Well,
Wherever
have
it is.
fun.
You do enjoy it. So here's another complicated story. This is about Australia, where there's a megachurch called Hillsong, which you may or may not have
Ooh,
heard.
nice.
Yeah? It's very musical, as you might have guessed by the name. And the founder is a chap called Brian Houston. And he has recently been in court on charges
Uh-oh.
stemming, listen to this, it gets more stemming from his decision not to report his father's child sex abuse to the police. Okay? His father, Frank Houston, back in 1999, confessed to his son about repeatedly sexually assaulting a young boy who was part of the church community where he preached, not the Hillsong, and that's been formed later, I think. So the trial was over whether Brian should have reported this to the police or not. Now, what he actually did do was he reported it to the senior church members. Keep it in
Oh,
house.
that's going to work. That's
Yes.
going to work.
Better than praying.
And since then, his father has passed away without facing any charges. So now we've got the son. This is very biblical, the son being charged with the offenses of the father.
Right.
And so during the trial, Brian acknowledged that he has since learned of his father's serial paedophilia, and he stated, "I have no doubt now that my father was a serial paedophile and will probably never know the extent of it." So the question is whether between 1999, when he had this knowledge, and 2004, when the criminal had gone, had died, whether he was right to keep it secret from police.
Well,
The
of
thing
course
got
not,
more
right?
complicated. Sorry, Dred?
Well, I just said, of course, that was wrong. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with you.
yeah.
But let's follow the story, because there's another twist.
Oh, no.
Because
It's twisted.
since the trial began, the victim has waived his right to anonymity and given evidence in the trial.
Oh, good.
So he's a man named Brett Sengstock, and he revealed that the abuse began when he was just 7, and it escalated over the years. And he described how Brian's father repeatedly raped him in his Sydney home. However, Brian maintained that he didn't tell the police because he was under the impression, in fact, he claims that the victim, who he knew, explicitly told him not to tell the police. He's changed his mind. So what we have now is the judge having to decide whether Brian really was under the impression that he was, following the instructions of the victim not to go to the police, even now that the victim has come out publicly, or whether he made it up that the victim told him not to go to the police. Do you want to know the verdict?
Yes. God came down and set them all on fire, and they've all died
Nothing so just.
in a desiccator.
Oh no. You turned up the desiccator too high. That's no longer a desiccator. Don't blaspheme what desiccators do. They're useful.
I'm never going to be allowed to forget this desecration, am I?
Not in this show.
I am the desiccator.
Here's,
You're gonna love the Barbie movie, by the way, Dred.
Nice.
Very silly. You got it. You're gonna be great.
here's the result. The magistrate acquitted Brian, believing there was little doubt that Houston was aware of the victim's previous wishes not to involve the police. Therefore, according to the magistrate, he had a reasonable excuse for not reporting it.
Wow.
Okay, well,
Religion
But,
1, God 0.
Yeah.
oh well, so it is, and yeah, the thing is that sexual abuse remains a very thorny and painful issue, and I will never blame a victim for not wanting to go public, because somehow with cases like this, the victim always becomes somehow, if not blamed, then the victim becomes blamed for ruining the life of the perpetrator if the perpetrator is punished. I've seen this in so many cases.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so, but it does boggle my mind a little bit that so if it's how so Australian law works such that if this person must have been a minor at the time
Yep.
of telling them that they don't go to the police. So if I find out that a child that I'm teaching is being molested, and they tell me just don't go to the police, and I don't go to the police, but that's the only way to really solve the problem. Then I'm sort of it's a difficult. How
But-
does this work? I mean, surely the child's right to anonymity will be protected if you go to the police in these cases.
There you go.
This is, I think, actually, it's coming up in Canada that they're going to make it so that priests, like school teachers and doctors and other professionals, are required under law to report any cases or suspected cases of child abuse, and that there is no out. And it's what they're challenging is the priest penitent or preacher penitent confidentiality, because that currently still is in place, that priests and preachers and pastors don't have to report suspected cases of child abuse that they learn about, at the exclusion of, them being the only ones that are excluded from doctors and all these other professionals. It's just, I mean, I was surprised to hear that is actually still the case. Like, I thought, civil society had advanced far enough that, that particular kind of church state crossing the line was already gone, but apparently not. They're still fighting that one.
Yeah. Well, it's good. I applaud that law because it takes the decision out of the hands of the adult who's been confessed to.
Right.
It gives
Yes,
him no.
and that's exactly what. Yeah. So and that should be, the awareness should be promoted well enough so that a child cannot say, "I told him not to say something," because if that child then goes to someone and they have the previous expectation that in reporting that to an adult, that adult is legally bound to carry that report up. That nobody is ever going to be able to say, "Hey, I told them not to say," or that the person says, the child told me not to say anything. No, forget it.
Yeah. The only downside is it might stifle children from reporting it at all.
Yeah, because the abuser might say, "Remember, I'll be going to jail if you," just talking about movies, not at all a silly movie, in fact, an excellent movie on the topic of child abuse. If you are at all interested in watching something really challenging and excellent, is the film is called The Wonder, and it's on Netflix, as in a miracle, The Wonder.
Okay.
Brilliant film. Yeah.
Wow, cool.
Okay. Right. So
just want to say, child abuse is one of those really, what's the right word for it? It's an abuse that tends to propagate itself, both in victims and people around it. And I think also the other thing that drives its toxicity is just how taboo we've made speaking up and being vulnerable and reaching out for help for men in this society globally. It's almost taboo to do so. So you have perhaps a situation where a guy is going through a power fantasy. He is repressed and is taking it out on not only strangers' kids, but could potentially be doing on it to his own son.
Mostly.
Yeah, it's a perfect opportunity to. And now you have a son who probably knows exactly the situation, but is part of a community that is not. It's his life, it's his whole dedication,
Yeah.
but it's also a burden to bear, and he doesn't have a worldview where he can leave these dogmatic points behind. And now he's stuck, not only recognizing that his dad was a pedophile, maybe even his abuser, but now has to stand up for him. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
imagine that kind of situation, and the kind of stress that puts that guy on. Like, that could be another situation where, you know, it's a kettle ready to burst, and
Yeah.
none of I'm only in set like when I look at a court case, the court should not. You're innocent until proven guilty. Maybe in Australian churches, I prefer if it was like that too. Maybe they don't have enough evidence to go back in time and say you had awareness at this point and therefore you're guilty. But what the message that did come out is you had the son admit that his dad was a pedophile. So like, there's no question about that. There's no question about the abuse. And I think the larger message of caution has been sent out. Likewise, the dad is dead. We don't have to worry about it. He can't incur more harm. However, there's still harm that's being adopted by the son. And like, I hope, if anything, if this David ever hears this, you should probably go to therapy and try to adjust this and figure out, like, even in confidentiality, like where you're at, the bad things that happened to you that you hopefully did not contribute towards in other people, and try to find some sort of systematic way to stop the bleeding that's occurred by this guy's actions. The
And
father's
there's still the institutional conspiracy of concealment
Right.
in the churches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I just want to say that Hillsong is currently not only embroiled in that case, because there is also a case involving the son, if I'm not mistaken. Let me not but there's girls were also abused in the church by maybe not the son, but by church elders, and it was all concealed. So Hillsong is in a real spot of bother. There's a documentary on Netflix about what's happening in Hillsong. So this is not the only. Hillsong is a bit of a there's a bit of a song and dance about Hillsong.
It has been hitting the headlines recently. You're absolutely right. So moving on to something a bit lighter. You know how we tend to think that fire and brimstone preaching from a pulpit or from a stage is the purview of the evangelical end of Christianity. Is that right? You think that?
Sure, I can give you that.
The Protestant rather
Yeah,
than
Protestant.
the Catholic. Yeah. So
It's only the only difference is like the Catholics do it in Latin, so it doesn't really hit as hard. They're just like omne quando fluncus mortis. Like, what's he saying? I don't know. He seems angry.
Sounds bad.
When are they passing up more juice?
Yeah.
When are they passing up more juice?
So watch this and see if you don't change your mind.
Listen to what I'm telling you. I don't care where you go to service, but if you're not in the Catholic churches, the Catholic for eternal life become extremely mitigated. What I'm trying to get you to understand is you can't just pick and choose which commandments. You're either in or you're out. You're either Catholic or you're not. You're walking towards him or you're walking away from him, especially with the Mass and the Eucharist. I'm telling you, and if I'm not in you or you're not in me, you will not. No.
There you go.
Oh, come on, guys. Have a little bit of empathy. Priests are like teachers. We have to perform. We are performers, and some of us are really expressive. I mean, have you seen me going on about the apostrophe and the use of the apostrophe to show possession and contraction? Really? Why
Nice.
blame him for getting carried away?
Are you an apostrophist?
That is what I am. I'm an apostrophist.
You know, I'm less worried about your hatred of the apostrophe misuse than I am about these priests who are exhorting their congregation to be divisive, to hate anybody who's not,
Yeah.
in this case, a Catholic.
Yeah.
I'm just worried. I don't understand. Why do you walk into like a Nike shoe store and be like, you all need to wear Nike shoes. You can't wear any other kind of Nike shoe. You have to be wearing Nike shoes. Any other? It's like you're already in a Nike shoe
Yes.
store.
Right.
So like, why are you telling Catholics in your Catholic garb?
It
and
is.
your
It is
congregation-
literally preaching to the converted, right?
Yes, it's
Literally.
like you have to be Catholic. It's like, oh, good, we're Catholic already. It's like, yeah, you have to be Catholic. Yeah, that's why we're here. It's like you have to be it. Good, I showed up. I think we're okay. I think we're all right. No, one new guy who showed up because his girlfriend's Catholic is like, oh, geez, this is a lot, but it sounds like I'm in the right place. So you should be going to other churches and saying that. You should invite that guy to that local Baptist church so he can give that presentation. But otherwise, he's literally preaching to his own choir.
Yeah.
Well, I suspect that particular priest is worried that he's going to lose his flock, and that's why he's having to issue threats about, how you must eat the flesh and drink the blood.
Let me tell you something. Every Catholic knows that the best way to threaten is not by screaming, but it's just in a quiet dinner with your fingers interlaced and being like, "You've disappointed the family. You disappointed the family." You talk one person at a time. Tony. I'm sorry
Tony.
You've broken my heart. You've broken my heart. It's like, oh, Don, let me tell you, I'll be Catholic. I'll take the benediction right now. It's like,
that's right.
I don't know if it might be getting too late. I'm gonna give you one more chance, and then he gets out, and then you get them the next person. Sally, you're 8 years old. You disappointed the family. I'll try better. That's how you get it.
You're absolutely right. But here's one who hasn't learned that lesson that we've just seen. Yeah. Moving on to our favourite, the ranting Greg Locke. You know what he's turning his ire against now? It's the movie you're about to go and see, Dread.
Okay.
Really? Wow, this
Take
is popular.
Take a look at this.
Doubt when you expel it, the stronghold comes. The demon comes.
Wow.
Well, that's Greg Locke demolishing Barbie's house.
Barbie.
All right.
Okay.
I have a lot of things to say about this.
Was Barbie inside?
Intro to it, with a baseball bat wrapped in Bibles. I don't know whether you can see that.
That's so great. Listen,
So he's a Bible basher.
If you bought that Barbie playhouse, if you went out to a Toys R Us and you bought a Barbie playhouse and you set that up and you meticulously erected it, you had your volunteers come and put that up and they had fun building it because they were going to do this presentation. I don't care because you bought a Barbie playhouse. It's the same way I feel when they burn books. It's like if you legally bought that and that's your property, I don't care. Do whatever you want with it. You paid somebody. Some guy who made that got a little paycheck, got maybe a small little royalty from the thing that you decided to do. It's your property. If you went out and you stole someone's playhouse, that's a problem. We have laws against that. So I have no problem with him. He could do that. He could do that literally 10 times per sermon, every day, every week, every year from here on out. Barbie's cashing in at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And no problem.
The royalties
that's
flow.
Just a guy. Let him do what he wants with his own
the
property.
sequel will be made.
Yeah, but somebody made money off of that. That's all that Mattel cares about. It's all good.
Hollywood wins.
Hollywood wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think you've been wonderful again, guys. So I'm going to give you the rest of the day off.
Oh, thank you.
You're gonna drive around with the top down.
I'll go and fight apostrophe mistakes.
I'm gonna
Okay.
go look at desiccators on Amazon.
We call it the greengrocer's apostrophe here because very often it's got lettuces with an apostrophe before the S. On their goods. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Hope to see you again next time.
Yep.
Take care. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.